I'm just going to check if these are working. Yes, excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody. And thanks very much for the invitation to join, Joe. My name, as Monica said, is Niamh Tumulty. I'm the Director of Library Services here at LSE Library. I thought it'd be useful to talk initially about what perspective I'm coming from, because I have, I think, quite a unique one in that I am an academic librarian. That's my background. I've been doing that for 15 years, mainly in liaison roles. So most of my roles have been involved working within faculties and departments, making sure that I understand what the needs of the students are, what the needs of the researchers are, and then designing and delivering services to meet those needs. I then spent 4 years at Cambridge as the head of open research. Actually, most of that liaison time was Cambridge as well. And I brought that same kind of approach to how I did open research there. So there, we very quickly realized that we were hearing from our researchers, especially in humanities and social sciences, that the way open science is talked about alienates, doesn't always make sense. They feel like a square peg in a round hole a lot of the time. So again, I was taking that approach, trying to understand, well, what would work for you? What does open research in the humanities look like if designed from the perspective of that discipline? And so then when the library director role came up at LSE, they explicitly wanted somebody who'd be able to lead on open science. And they seemed to quite like the fact that I was very interested in how we made it work for the social sciences. So here I am. And one of the interesting things about this role is that I also get to be managing director of LSE Press. And that's very interesting because I had spent 4 years banging on about the problems in scholarly publishing. And now suddenly I'm in a role that means I can try to help improve things. So it's really interesting. That is the entire element of my job description about that. It is one line saying managing director of LSE Press. So I popped it into ChatGPT to go, what does a managing director of a press do? Figured out the rest from there. So I bring those two different perspectives. From a library perspective, budgetary constraints. In many institutions, they have it even worse than LSE, but every university is juggling finances. Within the library, so obviously we talk a lot about the costs associated with journal publishing. We now have to figure out how we're going to solve open monographs from a financial perspective. We also have data providers turning around and asking us for 120% price increases year on year. It's not sustainable. The way all of this works is not sustainable. It needs to be fixed. There is very, very well documented issues with the transitional agreements, which were supposed to help us get from the pay to read model of publishing we had before to the pay to publish model that some were flipping to. The transition is going to take 75 years, apparently, at the current rate of change. And then it just transfers the problem because then there are people who are excluded on the basis of their voices not being heard. We do have, I would say, a small proportion of researchers who are very engaged and want radical change. And I love working with these researchers. They're so inspiring. They challenge us. They have such amazing visions for the future. We also have the vast majority of researchers who are saying, yes, but I'm spinning all my research requirements, my teaching requirements, my administration requirements. I need to know where my next job is. It might be in America. They're not thinking the same way. We have to be realistic that we know we want an improvement to things. The slides are not shared. Apologies to those online. We want to see improvements, but we also have to do it in a way that brings the wider research community along with us. So that's what I mean by balancing the immediate needs with the more strategic approach. And we are operating a global context. So even if we manage to fix things beautifully for LSE, we have to also be able to make sure that that is going to work within a wider system of what's happening all around the world. And then from the press perspective, one of the big things when you're a brand new press is building a reputation that makes people feel confident and comfortable with bringing their publications to you in the knowledge that it's not going to affect future career prospects and so on. So building reputation is really important. The sustainable funding is a major challenge, especially if you want to do Diamond, if you don't want to have paywalls either on the read or publish side. And we're navigating within the university systems, which aren't necessarily designed for how publishing works. So that can be a challenge. Distribution benefits of open, lots online distribution, but the print distribution is in a whole area that we haven't started doing that much about, have we? And looking at the press team a little bit. We're thinking about it. We want to do more. And the challenges of meeting author expectations, because they will have expectations from working with other publishers. In some cases, the expectations are pretty low level because their experience was terrible. In other cases, their experiences were quite positive and they're expecting certain things to carry over. So that is a challenge. I do think I am an optimist. I do think there are lots of reasons to be optimistic. I feel like the conversation is increasingly going in the same direction. Certainly at LSE, I've heard so many inquiries about, well, how can I make my monograph open access? The desire to do that is increasing. People want ways to do that. So that's positive. We are seeing awards going to books from new open access presses, and I had to get this in here. Huge congratulations to David Luke for winning an award last year. His book was published by LSE Press. The funder policy developments are going to help us here. I disagree with others about the REF decision. I think it was the right decision to postpone and have a clear start date. I know others have different views. Happy to talk about that later. Librarians, certainly across the UK, but also more widely, are looking at how they develop collections and how they build the budgets for open publishing into that where they can. And I wanted to end on this note, really. We also have schemes that really help us with having more sustainable approaches to funding diamond publishing, such as the ones from JISC and the Open Book Collective, both of whom we've been working with this year, and we hope to have announcements very soon. And I'll just leave with you with the slide on LSE Press and hand on, hopefully, to Caroline.